And we're live. Oh, you turn on comments. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good hump day. Looks like we're just a little over a week from Thanksgiving. Somebody posting one of the groups what everybody's got going for Thanksgiving. What y'all got going on? I've got a little apple wine fermenting right now. Let me share these links out. Everybody talk about what you got going on right now. All right, let's see. There's a notification. Yeah, YouTube's pretty good about that. Actually, it took a little longer tonight than it usually does. See, I got my wine going. Apple wine. Pretty good stuff. Especially if you stop it before it ferments dry. You can leave a little bit of that sweetness in there. Pretty good stuff. And if it doesn't, you can always stop the fermentation or stabilize it with some potassium metabisulfate and some potassium sorbate. And then you can add sugar without the yeast eating it after you kill them off or render them neuterless. Let's see. Actually, I just posted that. Should have checked to see if he was. Yeah, I don't think he's live right now. Yeah, I don't want to post on Mark's page if he's got a live going. That's kind of rude. So I always try to check, make sure he ain't got something live going. So yeah, April or Apple. I was going to say April wine. Y'all remember them as good group, but I used to jam with them a lot. But yeah, apple wine, pretty good stuff. And that's one of those wines you want to drink fresh. You don't want to, age that for years and years. That's not going to get better over time. It's, maybe a few months at the most, and I'll probably drink a little bit of it as wine and make a little brandy. I like that apple brandy pretty well. Actually, I'm thinking about making a mixed brandy and putting it in a barrel. I've got a couple 15-gallon barrels and a 5. I think I'm gonna put me some brandy, a bunch of brandy that I've got in that barrel because I've got like the watermelon that didn't turn out well at all. So I think I'm just gonna neutralize that and just and add it to the other brandies just kind of as a alcohol helper, I guess, just to help proof it up, keep it a little more proof to spread around. But that brandy, I'll probably go into the barrel at a lower proof than I would a whiskey or a bourbon. Maybe 100 proof or 90 or 100 proof, somewhere around there. I'm thinking I've just about got all these shared that I'm going to be able to. Don't want to put it on Michael Hatley's page. I think he's on Rogers tonight, so I'm not posting that on his page until they're done. I think that's the right thing to do. What do y'all think? so we'll post it. Maybe it's getting a late start. I'll post it later on those two. All right, let's see. I'm already behind. I start out behind. Sometimes I never get caught up. What's going on, Carpenter? Corn mash, sugar mash. Awesome, awesome. What's up, Curtis? 50 and 30. Awesome, brother. How you get the most flavor without a thumper? Good question. A lot of people these days are using infusers, which is basically jar rigs. I don't know if you've seen the jar rigs everybody's using. And those work pretty well. They're like, it's kind of like a little mini thumper, except you can remove them and, dump and add another jar or refresh the jar, in mid-run. That works well. But if you're talking about just running straight off the pot, you can try to minimize, the amount of reflux and, and minimize driving the proof up real high and, trying to come off a little faster without getting real too high proof. Now, high proof doesn't necessarily mean, I don't mean, neutral, like 190 proof or plus, but the higher the proof, the more delicate and light the flavor is going to profile is going to be until eventually, when you get up to 190 proof or so, you're going to have hardly any flavor. So the more water that you can carry forward, generally, the more flavor you're going to have too, and making good cuts. And is this something that's going to be aged, or is it something that's going to be, drank off the tap? Because that's a big consideration too, and how you're going to make your cuts. So if it's something that you're going to drink immediately, you'll pretty much want to stick with hearts, and maybe if you can pick out certain, low heads that have a good flavor ester in there to kind of blend with it, and maybe somewhere in the tails that might have a little bit of oils or something that might taste good, depending on what you're distilling. You might want to add those, learning how to make those cuts and just add tiny amounts to just add, a little flavor profile without overwhelming it is one of the arts of distillation and liquor making. But if it's something that you want to drink immediately, staying pretty much close to the hearts is definitely going to work in your benefit. But if it's something that you're going to age and you want flavors to come through, you definitely want to try to get a little bit of those low heads. Not a lot, I'm not talking about taking a whole bunch of low heads and mixing them with your hearts, but a little bit of low heads and some of those esters from the low heads and some of the oils from the high tails. That when I say low heads, I mean closest to the hearts, the lower, volatile heads, and then the high tails that are right next to when some of the oils come off. So those oils and some of the acids and from the esters and stuff in the heads can combine over time and form some really good flavors, interesting flavors for sure. So definitely best way to build a flavor profile is with aging, and allowing those chemical processes to take place. That's why a lot of people don't like just straight white dog moonshine, because it's, usually pretty much a heart, if it's decent. If not, some people just take 4 shots, throw them off, and then mix all the heads, all the tails, all the hearts together, and then they'll cut off somewhere through the tails and just mix it all together. And that's what, you see on the show, a lot of old timers did. And that's really what they did. They'd throw off that, the methanol, and the 4 shots and the high heads. And then the rest of it, they just all mix up in a big old vat and proof it down to a certain proof. And that's what they'd go with. So it'd have, heads, hearts, and tails all mixed in it. So I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking, brother. What's going on, Jeremy? Good to see you, brother. Forsyth. There's a lot of Forsyth back in Eastern Kentucky where I grew up. Some good friends. We're Forsyths. Your stepfather has a pumpkin moonshine that was really good. Do you have any suggestions on a good pumpkin mash recipe? He said it tastes like pumpkin pie, but was clear, so no post flavor added. Well, with pumpkin, it's got starches, just like a sweet potato or anything else, less than a sweet potato. Definitely not as many starches as a sweet potato. So you're going to treat it the same as you would a sweet potato. You're going to heat it up to 185, which is what temperature, your high temperature, alpha amylase works at. You're going to cook it and gelatinize those starches just like you would a corn. Now, I'm not sure what the gelatinization temperature is, but I know 185 is what you generally use your high temp alpha at. So I don't think it's going to hurt anything heating those, steeping those, pumpkin mash. So steep it like you would a corn at 185, 90, and let it steep for 90 minutes. Hydrolyze those starches just the same, and break them out of there, and then add your high temp alpha, and then follow up, with your glucose when it gets to 140 or 100, depending on what your glucose calls for. So always look at your label though on your glucose and your alpha amylase, because all of them are a little different. High temp alpha, I think all is about 185. But I've seen, some of the glucose, go from 140 to 100 depending on the formulation. So, and I think that's where they derive them from, is the, what temperature, the highest temperature that you can go with them before they, looks like my ceiling's flashing, man. What's going on back there? I got a little, yeah, I got a little elf sticking behind me. What are you doing back there?
Oh, I was trying to get on my computer and it's not working.
Your computer's not working?
Uh-oh.
Huh?
I didn't want to bother you.
It's all right. What's it doing?
It's not connected. It says.
Well, try to restart everything. Okay. Shut it down and try to restart. It should be working. My internet's working. It was going in and out last night, but it should be fine now. If you had it on overnight, it may need to be restarted. So had my little elf back there looking around, sneaking around, looking at my modem. I wonder what the hell my flashing light was on my ceiling. But anyway, so just check the label on your glucose, and follow up at whatever temperature it calls for, and treat it just like you would a corn. Starch is starch, they're pretty much amylose, pectin, they treat them all the same. Well, it's sweet potato, whatever, just heat them up, break them out, and then hydrolyze them with you, gelatinize them and then hydrolyze them, and then follow up some glucose, debranch with your glucose. What's going on, Calvin? Good to see you, brother. What's up, John? Good to see you, Ben. What's going on down in South Kakalaki? What's up, Mash, brother? Hey, Richard made it. What's going on, brother? Good to see you here. I think Richard had a little question earlier. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, he's talking about jar rigs and sizing jar rigs, and using like little mini thumpers, for an 8-gallon and 5-gallon steel, and yeah, a half-gallon jar rig, it'll work on most any steel, size regardless. 5 gallons up, it's going to work just fine. And it's a good way to infuse flavors. A double rig works. I don't know if it's twice as good, but it adds a lot more flavor. It does add considerably more flavor. So having a double jar rig is awesome, man. What's going on, Clint? Good to see you, brother. So it's Wednesday. Clint can be with us. He's not out swarping around partying. No. Somebody was asking. about pepper jars and using a bypass and getting flavor without using, a thumper. And I was saying, using the jar rig certainly helps to add to that flavor. Um, but yeah, without it, you'd run pot still mode and with as little reflux as possible, and you know, having that lean arm coming down instead of straight out or up, minimizing reflux, you'll get more flavor and making good cuts and knowing how to use esters out of the heads and isolating certain good, tasting esters from the heads to give it a little sweetness. Because there are some good flavors in those heads. It it just takes time, for them to mature, kind of like a wine. I know, but ever since I said Clitus, everybody just looks at it different. Because I always saw Clint Taurus until I put it together that night. I don't know. I think I was drinking and my eyes weren't all focused. And ever since then, that's what I see too. I think that's what everybody sees now. Maybe because he's on YouTube instead of Facebook. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. No, I didn't do big and wide. You got to let me know on my little chat thing. I forgot to make it big and wide. There, that's better. Y'all can see it better now, I'm sure.